Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Reckless Optimist podcast. My name is Megan. I'm a family nurse practitioner with a deep passion for mental health. On this show, we showcase guests who have shown tenacity, grit, mental strength, and who embody the word resilience. A quick disclaimer before we start. This show is not a substitute for mental diagnosis or treatment. We do recommend that if you're struggling with your own emotional well-being, you see a mental health provider. I'm so excited that you guys are here. Let's get into it. Hey everyone. Today on the podcast, we have Gary. Gary and I met a few months ago. I was a guest actually on his podcast. I was invited on by some mutual friends, and he's just a really fun guy. He does tell his story tonight, and it is a wild ride. It's almost like a movie playing out before your eyes, kind of Wolf of Wall Street vibes. What's really cool though is he is definitely someone that created a whole new life for himself. He had this act one of his life where there was jail and trauma, bar fights, and waking up drinking alcohol in the morning and just benders. And then ultimately a radical change in his life. And this next half of his life, he'll be 19 years sober next month. He's lived this life of purpose and fulfillment. And it's really cool to see all the stuff that he's doing now in recovery. He has a clothing brand out called Recover, RCVR, that are for people in sobriety that like to work out and hike and do yoga. And he has his own podcast, which is really, really cool that he's adding to this space. So I know you guys are going to love this episode. Let's get into it. Help me welcome Gary to the podcast.
Hey, Megan. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me tonight. I'm so grateful to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. This is so fun to be on the other side of this because you interviewed me 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And it's fun to do like a podcast flip.
It is. And I was so excited to see, first of all, we had such a great conversation when you came on, and then we've obviously connected since then, and to watch where you're going and the podcast and all the stuff that you're into, it's really cool to watch.
When I did that episode with you, I think we might have talked about it. I know it was a fire burning inside of me to start this podcast. I think I even asked you some questions like how you got started and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, you definitely were someone I looked up to in the podcast world. So we met through mutual friends and hit it off. We did that episode together, and I'm so excited to hear your story. Before we jumped on, I was talking about how I don't know your whole story, and I'm so excited to hear it.
We all have our stories of how we get here, right? But that's the beauty of our community, right, Megan? Like all these people come and we share our stories, and we do it in the effort that, maybe someone out there will hear it and it'll resonate, and maybe they don't have to go to the lengths or the depths that we went to, and then get
back. Is it weird to be on the other side? Are you do you do podcast guest at all?
I do. It's, no, it's not weird. I don't know why, but I'll be honest with you, I'm a little nervous. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you have such a good podcast. I love the platform that you have. And you can tell you're someone that really enjoys people. You like to connect with people. And that definitely comes through on your show.
That's so sweet. I do like to connect with people. Even before the podcast, I'm going on next month, May. I'll be celebrating 19 years sobriety, which is crazy to say. It's beautiful to say. It's amazing. But my wife will make fun of me. We'll go away or we'll go on vacation, and she's like, you just, next thing you know, you're like just talking. I do. I like talking to people. I have a genuine interest in people. And then the podcast, I get the chance to meet so many incredible people with incredible stories, and most incredible people I know are people in recovery. I was like, I totally believe that. I just didn't kind of like have the permission, if you will, to kind of voice it. Now I say it, I think, like every episode, because I really believe that. It's the most incredible people. And it's like one of the only groups, or the only group I know, that is genuinely here to help, to pay it forward and to help someone else out. And, it really is. I've been doing a lot of DMs with the brand I just launched. So I'm talking to so many people, but it's real conversations.
No, I love what you're talking about. I connected with this guy. He'll be on the show in a few weeks, Henry, and he's from England. And I don't even know how we connected, somehow on the online sober community. I just thought it was so cool. Here I was talking to this guy in Yorkshire, England, about sobriety and like what it's like over there, and just like the corners of the world you can reach through this community is amazing.
It is amazing. We can talk to every corner of the planet. I get DMs from people in Ireland and England. I know how many people you help in your quote day-to-day job, Megan, and I know how many people you're going to help with this podcast. And you're going to get those DMs is thank you so much for that. I got so much out of that. You helped me do this. That's what sharing our stories does for other people. That's what it does. We cover out loud so people don't have to die in silence.
Yeah. I had a girl message me earlier today. She was like, I know you don't know me, but your podcast has shown that it's okay to be broken in this world and that we're not alone. Just a beautiful moment that how you can connect with people through the vulnerability and through the brokenness, and the invisible lines and threads of our shared humanity are shown in that way. So it's truly beautiful. We're going to start our episode out with a quote like we do every time. And the quote for your episode is from a book called Mindset. Have you ever heard of this book?
I've heard it since you pointed it out, and I just
Yep.
ordered it, so I haven't read it yet. And I'm
Yay.
surprised. I thought I had all the books, but coming from you, I was like, all right, I have to get this one.
I have an addiction to self-help books. So
That's
this
okay.
one, I know, right? It's better addiction than the other
Yeah,
ones.
there's other things we could do. Exactly.
There could be worse. So I heard about this book on another podcast, actually, called the Being Well podcast. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I think I've heard of the Be Well. Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah, it's by Dr. Rick Hansen and his son Forrest. Just a really cool mental health podcast. But they kept talking about this book, Mindset, and it's like kind of old. It's probably from the early 2000s. I think if you were a psych major, you probably were required to read it. But it's all about going from a fixed mindset to a growth one. So the quote reads, "True self-confidence is the courage to be open, to welcome change and new ideas. Real self-confidence is not reflected in a title, expensive suit, a fancy car, or a series of acquisitions. It is reflected in your mindset, your readiness to grow." What does that mean to you?
You just said something I need to say is that I don't know if you remember, but you on my show, you had told me that I have a growth mindset because I was explaining to you, like 50 years old, I have more ambitions and more goals than I ever have, maybe ever. And I'm so looking forward to the next chapter. I'm so big on that. I am there's a football coach. He's on the Raiders now. His name is Pete Carroll. I think he's 74 years old. And I bring him up often because he's not in sick shape. He's just lean. He's in good shape, but he's got so much energy. Right. And I'm like, that's my guy. We got a good 30 years to go. So that, I lean on him. So you gave me, and I use it a lot. I'm like, I do. Excuse me. I have a growth mindset. I do. Yeah, I do. But so that quote, man, that opens up so many things. I think of an open mind. I feel like I've been given the gift of an open mind in sobriety. I used to have just my tunnel vision, right? And I've learned so many times over and over that all the things that I thought that Gary thought were so wrong so many times. As I get a little older and maybe a little bit more wiser, I have this open mind. I don't know everything. And a lot of times I've been wrong. So just because my initial reaction is this, I need to take a step back and, rethink it. Right. And so it gives me an open mind. But mindset, look in the back of my wall. It's all mindset. It's Michael Jordan, Kobe, it's Derek Jeter. Those guys are on my wall. It's not because of all the rings and all the championships, which is great, but it's the mindset of the winner. That's what I'm really driven to. You got to be able to pass the mirror test. The mirror test is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and being not just okay with that person, but being proud of that person and kind of taking care of your own side of the street, which we learn a lot in recovery. So self-confidence is really, it's being okay with yourself. It's being proud of yourself. I had no self-esteem, low self-esteem. Shame was a big, big word in our right. Resentment. Self-confidence is to believe in yourself. It's knowing that people may say opposite or there be haters out there, and it doesn't matter. You got to stay the course and you got to do what you believe in. And, I can't help but think of the business I just started too. There's all the emotions, as you know, too, right? You've run marathons, you're starting a podcast, you have all the emotions too. I have imposter syndrome, but then there's other days where it's you know what? I'm confident that no one is doing this little work that I'm doing right now. So that gives me also the self-confidence. Has absolutely nothing to do with what's parked in my driveway, has absolutely nothing to do with the suit I have on. It's about my heart. It's about my character. It's about my integrity, right? So I keep my side of the street clean, and God willing, in sobriety, it's been pretty clean the past 19 years. I'm far from perfect, but I could be confident in in who I am and where I'm going and what I want to do.
Yeah, that's a really, really good answer to what that quote means to you. You know, it's so funny you bring up the Michael Jordan and the athletes behind you because they actually talk about those athletes in the book. I think people get stuck on, well, if you don't have the natural ability, you're never going to become these things. But Michael Jordan, he actually did not have great natural ability. It was his effort. His effort is what got him to be the best of the best in the field that he was in. And that's something I can respect. I can definitely respect your effort over your just God given talent, your natural talent, your genes, you know, because effort is something that I can control. I can control my effort. It's funny with sports, I've never been extremely athletic. I'm a really good runner, but that's like the only talent that I have. But even in running, you know, I was always told, well, you're just a distance runner. You're not fast because I'm not like, if you ever saw me run like a 40-yard dash, you'd be like, wow, she's actually really slow. So I've had this need to prove to myself that I can be fast, and that fixed mindset, getting out of that and realizing that putting in track workouts, doing different things, I can be a lot faster than what my quote unquote genes say that they are.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing I want to comment on that you mentioned is you did with this business that you have coming out, and we're going to get to talking about that in your podcast. A lot of people want to do those things, but they don't do it. They hold back. But you said, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do it and I'll figure it out later. And that right there, that's success right there.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think this may be important for people out there. I've suffered for a long time of a lot of my adult life of wanting to have my own business. I wanted to, or side hustle or start my own business, or I'm the guy that has notes pages full of ideas. And then I've taken them even pretty far up until the part where it's actually going to be out in public and launch it. My wife has heard every ridiculous idea. Some of them are probably great ideas, right? But, or maybe they weren't. Who knows, right? But she's heard every idea in the past, 20 something years. And this podcast, I like listening to them. I listen to YouTube all the time where I'm hiking, when I'm exercising, but I had no intention of having my own, let alone a sobriety based podcast. And I sort of I wrote this, honestly, a beautiful mission statement on it. And I shared it with her and she's like, I'm like, what is she going to think now? Not only am I going to be sharing my story, it's going to be out in the world. She's like, drop everything. This is so you. Like, go all in on this. But I bring that up because I started it and I'm proud that I did, right? Just like you did. You started it. But I told myself, kind of like what we're talking about, the sports analogies, is I just said, you know what? Episode 10 is going to be better than episode 1. I didn't know what I'm doing. I don't have any interview skills. I enjoy talking to people, and I do have a genuine interest in people. And that's just natural for me. I mean, that's not for everybody, but that was the mindset. And that's the same mindset. That was a big learning curve for me, or lesson, I should say. And so I've taken that with so many other things, even the past 2 years. I only launched it 2 years ago. And that's the same thing with the business. Listen, I can get stuck because it doesn't look like this yet, or I can start. So we got to start. You really got to start somewhere. And one last thing you brought up about work ethic. It's an amazing quote, but one of my favorites is Derek Jeter. There will be plenty of people out there that are more talented than you, but there's no excuse for anybody to outwork you. And so I'm confident if I put the work, we'll get somewhere. I come from hustle culture. I worked on Wall Street and it was, kill or be killed. And that's not what I'm talking about. My mindset has changed with that portion too. No such thing as an overnight success. All overnight successes are from just days and days of just building that brick each day. Put a brick down each day, put another brick down the next day. And next thing you know, in 3 months, in 6 months, in 12 months, you have a wall. And you just keep building. And that's where the winning is. And I'm a big believer because it just resonates with me. Yes, I do.
I am so excited to hear your story. You have such a good speaking voice and you talk with such good energy. So just take us back to wherever you feel comfortable.
I enjoy telling my story, I even though it is uncomfortable as well at the same time. I grew up on Long Island, New York, was born in 74, grew up in the 80s, in a blue collar area. If I went few blocks or half a mile and I hopped a couple of fences, I was in this place called Sands Point, wealthiest area in the country. So we was this hodgepodge of people with everything. And then us, my neighborhood was such a tight knit neighborhood. We were all on our bicycles. I grew up across the street from a huge park. I think I opened that park every single day. And I think I closed it every single night. Played sports my whole life. I never felt like I was missing anything really. Yes, I've always felt like wanted a little more. I started to have feelings of less than, but I didn't even know what that really was until I got sober. I probably started drinking earlier than most people. But, we were, I guess, sixth grade. That's young, I admit it, but typical, sneaking into friends' parents' liquor cabinets, and I hated the taste at the beginning. And for some reason, all my buddies, my best buddies, they were all kind of left back. So they're all like a year, almost all of them are like a year older than me, but we're all in the same grades. And I'm on a group text with every single one of them right now. Best group of dudes you could ever meet. And so I played sports growing up. I was captain of my high school baseball team. Baseball was my real love. Like that's where my summer jobs were early. I was a really, I guess, typical awesome young kid in the 80s upbringing. But I also had behind closed doors, I had a dad that was very active in drugs. And I saw things as a young kid that most kids aren't supposed to see. It was a secret. I told no one about it ever. It was always a secret. And once I started drinking, again, I progressed early, but I got in a lot of trouble early also. I can't tell my story without telling this one is it was the night before Thanksgiving and I was with my three older cousins. They're probably 21. These guys are my heroes. So, and I'm in the back seat with them all day. And I'm in 11th grade. I'm 16. We went to a batting cage and we're drinking beers in the back seat. And they're like, "Oh, this is the biggest night. This is the biggest night in our town. The night before Thanksgiving, you got to get into the bar tonight." And I just had it in my head. I was like, "I gotta go. I gotta get there." And so I snuck into the bar, 8, 9 o'clock that night, and like the whole bar knew me. I was the youngest kid. I was the smallest kid in there, but I knew everyone in the whole place. And it was mobbed. What do they say? 10 deep. You couldn't get anywhere because I was in my element. Fast forward a couple hours, a fight breaks out and it spills into the street with my cousins. And so there's like three of my cousins, myself, and it's a brawl. It's a really pretty rough and tumble brawl. And cops go to arrest my one cousin, and I wake up Thanksgiving morning with a first degree assault of a police officer. The story is, went to arrest him, and I went right after the cop. I got blasted him and got his car. Broke his nose, apparently. Yeah, so I woke up in Nassau County Jail Thanksgiving. I was 16 years old, and when I tell you, like, my whole world changed, like, it completely changed. I went from this in other people's eyes, I should say. But they looked at me as like this little innocent kid to like, "Oh, come here, man." The tough guy's like, "Hey, he's all right. You hear what he did." Changed the trajectory of my life. And I was in big, big trouble. I'll never forget. I'm sitting in the courtroom and my poor mom, she's facing 8 years in jail. I'm 16 years old and captain of the team and missing baseball games because I'm in court. I get in a lot of trouble. It starts this sort of, I guess in hindsight, not that long of a spiral, but just like a real bad way. So bring this up too is when I was in grade school, I was the top of my class of not just in my class, but the whole district in my grade. And by the time I graduated high school, which is a year after this episode, I barely graduated. I barely graduated high school. I didn't apply to one college. I took my SATs like a total blur bender and graduated in 1992. And I didn't know what I was doing. Everyone else went off to college. We go down to spring break in Key West, Florida. And I was like, "Oh man, I can move here." And so a couple of my buddies, we moved to Key West. I think I was 19 when I moved to Key West, Florida, and things really ramped up there. That's all I did was drink. And I mean, I worked and I paid my rent and everything, but I just ramped up my debauchery, if you will. Came back, friends of mine are doing adult things. They're starting to get married, starting to get real jobs. And here I am. I don't even have, I don't have a degree. I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a bartender. And so as a young, aspiring, raging alcoholic that I was off to, yeah, that was the perfect role for me. So I'm going to bartend in Key West in the winters. I'm going to bartend out in Montauk in the summers. And this is what I do for the rest of my life because I love this stuff. I love the party. And so I'm sitting in a bar one night and I'm bartending and some guy's like, "What are you doing behind the bar there?" He's like, "You got to come work for me. I work for this Wall Street firm." And I'm like, "Really? Yeah, I'll take you up on that." And yeah, another kind of long story short, I go to meet him the next day and I go to work in this kind of chop shop and it's kind of an offspring of Wolf of Wall Street, which I didn't know at the time, but this is Long Island. I knew in my heart, I knew there was something wrong, but I was like, I can still get my test. I can get the Series 7. I can maybe do something with this. So I took the test. I got licensed. The second I got licensed, I left them. I got into a fight with them. I left them and I started dating this amazing girl at the time. And her brother worked in a real firm, a real Wall Street firm where, they went to Ivy League schools and they were the cream of the crop. And so he got me a job. He got my foot in the door there. I started there February of 2001. That's about 6.5 blocks north of the World Trade Center. So I'm out there on September 11th morning and I'm smoking a cigarette and the planes hit. And I'm always like, why do I always bring up September 11th? I do. I think bring it up because I was really on a bad path. But there was like a Forrest Gump aspect to me too. Like I just weaseled in, like I just got that job and I passed the drug test. I guess I didn't smoke weed for, the 25 days that they told me I'd pass, and I passed it somehow. But I always thought I wanted a family, Megan. I did. And my mom is one of 10. I have 7 amazing uncles. It's a big family, and there's 2 of us. And so I always wanted to have a family like that. And after September 11th, I really went to a really darker place, and I was like, I don't want to bring kids into this world. I really went bad, and that happened September. A few months later in April, I go out on a Thursday night with a bunch of guys. I learned what I'm about to say in recovery, but I was surrounded by, in my mind, everyone is wealthy. Everyone has everything handed to them. I had to work for everything, and I'm sitting here like, oh, this guy's Harvard, that guy's Brown, Princeton. Hey, where'd you go to school? I'm like, I didn't go to school. I didn't realize I had a self-esteem issue from the get-go. Again, I learned all this about myself in recovery. But anyway, so I go out on a Thursday night, and this is my first like real job, like working Monday through Friday, not bartending anymore. Yes, I don't have all the accolades or degrees that these guys got, but I got a chance here. I'm at a real firm, and I go out on a Thursday. I go on a bender. I don't show up Friday. I go out all weekend. I don't show up Monday. Tuesday, I get a phone call. I'm like, oh man, everything's crashing down on me. Someone comes and knocks on my door. It's Sir, they had to sign for it. I open it up, and it's like, Gary, this is Solomon Smith Barney. If you're alive, you need to contact us. Otherwise, your position is going to be terminated. I called and I said, I'm alive, but I have a problem with drinking, and I need to go get help. And that same girlfriend came over, and she found a place for me to go, and I went upstate New York. It was called St. Christopher's, and that was April of 2002, and they call it the Miracle in the Mountain. And I'd love to sit here and tell you that, everything changed for me up there, but, everyone has their own journey, and my path wasn't ready. I was not ready, but I went up there, and I'll never forget this. As soon as I got there, they checked me in. My mom, my girlfriend, my sister drove me up there. I smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes in the back seat of my mom's car and the whole way up there. And I can remember this clear as day too. Sat in a circle, an AA meeting, came around. I'm like, oh man, what am I going to say? That I'm Gary and I'm an alcoholic. I thought my life was over. I was like, look at where you put yourself now, kid. Look at where you are now. You are just a piece of shit. What are you going to do now? And so I went through the 30 days. I got a lot out of it. I really did. I went back. I had one job to do. I needed to go to an AA meeting. And I didn't even put 60 days together, and I was back at it. I was in and out of AA for 4 years, and it was ugly, and every time it was getting darker and darker. And we were at Montauk, so I spent all my summers. I had amazing summers out in Montauk, and I had awful summers in Montauk. But I remember I had all my buddies with me, and they thought I wasn't drinking, and I went back out raging, like, what are you doing? And I basically just caused a fight with all of them, and that was my, when I talk about mindset. My mindset at that point was, listen, you're either on this team or you're off it, and I really don't care what side of it you're on. I don't care, and I just went about it. I really upset people that love, that's what always happens. You always upset other people, right? Upset other people that closest to us, friends and family. My poor girlfriend at the time, like, she's a normie, right? She doesn't understand the mind of an alcoholic, right? It really is cunning, and it's baffling, and it's powerful, and especially to people that don't really get it, because none of it makes sense. And it never made sense to her, because she's like, there's this great guy, and all of a sudden, like, he's gone, and this dark person like appears, and it gets darker and darker. I was in and out like for 4 years, and I knew that I'd have to stop drinking one day. Like, that was clear, even though I was the last one to get that memo, but it was crystal clear. But I'm certainly not going back, to those rooms. And I don't know what happened on May 12th. I was living in an amazing apartment in the West Village. I say it's a Tuesday because it was just such a non-event, nothing night. But it was just a normal night for me, where I was just drunk as a skunk, couldn't barely speak, all alone in my apartment with the shades drawn, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I said, God, please, God help me. I don't want to do this anymore. And for some reason, I picked up the phone, called Intergroup New York City AA. I said, I'm in trouble. I can't do this alone. I'm going to die. This isn't going to work. And I don't know what to do. They said, all right, where are you? I told my address, and they said, there's a meeting. And so I went the next day. I went to a meeting on May 13th, 2006. I haven't had a drink or a drug ever since. And if you knew me that like before then, I would have been voted, I think the last person, which is so many of us, right? There's so many people that vote, oh, he or she's never going to get sober. Like it was just so far gone. But I did. And what changed? What was different this time? I sat at the front of the rooms this time. I didn't just check the box and get to a meeting. I didn't show up maybe a couple minutes late, leave a couple minutes early. I sat in the front and I was a beaten guy. I was a beaten man. And looking back also, that first year is one of the best years, Megan, of my life. I held on to that job still somehow. And I thought like, my friends are gone. I love them, but it was like everything's gone. How am I supposed to further my career here? Like, how am I supposed to go out and entertain people? Yeah, that's probably gone. But it didn't matter. All that mattered was like I wanted to live. I didn't want to live the way I was living anymore. I brought up my mom's side of the story. I bring them up a lot. Like I'm the first grandchild, and I have 20 or 21 younger cousins, and they kind of looked up to me. I played sports. I worked in New York City, Wall Street. Like they were younger than me, just like I would look up to my uncles. It's the same thing. And I remember just sitting there like, is this what you want them to see? Is this what you want your cousins to think is like, this is where you're supposed to get to? Like, this is okay. And now, like, I really felt very strongly in that moment, which is pretty funny if you think a group of younger cousins. But I did. I wanted to be that leader in a way. What else did I do? I got a sponsor this time. But all I did was keep going to meetings. Like there's that saying, don't drink and go to meetings. Like I held on to that like for dear life for a long time early on. And then all those stupid sayings on the wall, none of them made sense. All of a sudden they started to make perfect sense. Keep it simple, stupid. I use that to this day, like in so many different aspects. But I went through the steps too, Megan. I just wrote down the fourth step. And I started writing down all that stuff that I saw when I was younger, things that kids aren't supposed to see, things that I had done. And these were all secrets my whole life. And I remember walking into my sponsor. He lived on the Upper West Side. He had this small little studio apartment. And he had candle. I walked in, there was candles on. I was like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. The jig's up. There's some kind of cult here. I was like, let me just get through this. So often when we tell our stories, he can relate to so much of it. Just like now when you do your podcast or you're on a podcast and you share your story, there's people out there that you can help because they can relate to it. But I've learned that, every one of us has their own story. You never know what's going on in someone's, behind closed doors. You never know what's going on in someone's life. But, I did the steps and, for so long is another kind of great story I'll say about, when I got to step 10. So, I still had this chip on my shoulder that, my dad owed me the amends. I don't owe him anything. And his brother-in-law, my uncle, passed away. And there was a big break off between them. They haven't spoken to each other in like 10 years or even longer. And we were such a tight group, all of us. I went there and I said, Dad, Uncle Tom passed. And I went there to tell him this, but I also went there to make my amends because I had done a lot of bad things throughout. And I said, Dad, if you don't show up to this, that's it. But if you don't come to this, I'm just putting myself in their shoes. I would never speak to him or her if they didn't show up for you. This is your shot. And then I said, I'm also here for another thing. And I said, I haven't drank in whatever many years it was. And so I made amends. And as soon as I started making amends to him, I just bawled like a little boy. I cried my eyes out. And I just said, I'm so sorry. And he was like, it's okay. It's all right. Like, ever since I made that amends to him, we're on the level. There's no like BS between us anymore. There's things that we both know, but it's totally on the level. My relationship with him is as good as it was. It's real and it's not superficial and it's not putting everything under the rug and just making everything look good for the time being. It's real. I owe all that to my sobriety. I say this too, Megan, and I've learned this in sobriety is I could put property of AA or property of my sobriety on everything I have, my car, this house, whatever. But for me, that means integrity. That means being an upstanding person. People come to me for help now with this topic. I wasn't even on their radar. Now I'm maybe the first person they come to. There's not a better feeling to get those phone calls. My life's a complete 180 from where it was, 19 plus years ago. Every single thing I owe it to my sobriety. And so I'm a blessed, I'm a happy customer, as they say. And, I just like to help other people realize their best lives.
Such a beautiful testimony. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Your life is like a movie. The way you describe it, it plays out in my head like some blockbuster movie with a really good ending. So, and I love to see this side of you. I have a lot of questions and comments. One is, what was it like to be, because you got sober young. I mean, if I'm doing the math right, you were still quite young,
Yeah.
early 30s,
I was
right?
26 when I went to that rehab, and I was 31 the last time.
Yeah. So young. So what was it like to be a young person in New York sober? Like, how was that, navigating that?
That first year was difficult for me on a lot of different levels because I feel like I kind of just checked out from everything. Like I didn't go to party. Like Megan, my entire identity was party guy. It wasn't a party unless I was there. And that was on the good days. And then it got very, very dark. But so the first year was difficult. But like I said, just zooming out and, for all the things that New York City has to offer, the most incredible thing they have 24/7 AA meetings before they resume. Like you can go to a meeting 24 hours a day somewhere in New York City.
Wow.
And the sobriety, like it's all shapes and sizes. So everything New York City is, my favorite thing about New York City is and I say A because that's where I got sober. And I say this a lot too. I want to make sure that bring this point out. I don't care how you like get here. I really don't. But if you need to get here and you're here, whatever works for you, like glad you're here. If someone asks me how I got sober, I'm going to tell them I'm Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm very active in AA now, and knock on wood, I always will be. When you talk about the mindset, like I was so wrong about so many things. I thought I was going to lose all those friends that first year, and I didn't lose all those friends. I thought I was going to lose that job. Literally 6 months into recovery, I don't not only stayed at this job, I did get moved up into that production role, and I am shoulder to shoulder with those Ivy Leaguers. Very grateful for the career I've had. It was a lot more difficult just in my head than it really had to be. I laugh. I think there's been like a handful of times. I think I can count probably less than full fingers how many times someone really like, why don't you drink? Maybe a few times I was like kind of cornered. And both times that person probably had a serious drinking problem or they were just, an idiot, so 19 years of this stuff, like it was really mostly in my head.
Yeah. That was a beautiful moment that you shared with your father and making the amends. I think when we hold grudges like that, all it really does is disservice to us, and so it was when you described how you made amends to him and just started this like cathartic crying, that release, that energy release in your body. I picture your life like a river, and that was a big boulder you had in your river. And when you gave that amends to your father, that boulder was pushed out of the way, and now your river is flowing with all of this good energy. And I just think that's such good advice to give to people if they have grudges, whatever, past trauma, past issues with their family members. And the way that you did it was so beautiful. You gave your amends, but you didn't expect anything back. You just had to get it out of you,
Yeah, there were zero expectations. So, but you bring up a really good point that was pointed out to me about resentments and how, they say resentments are the killer. I think you put shame with that too. I think it's probably under the same umbrella, a lot of shame. But when it dawned on me, and you talked about childhood trauma, which yes, I certainly have forms of that. Things we've seen as children, predisposition of alcoholism. It's littered in my family, even though I never really personally believed in that, but through the podcast and having doctors on, I've leaned maybe there is a little bit of a predisposition for me. But when I learned the fact that this resentment that I'm holding, the only person that this is affecting right now is me. It's not affecting that person that you're holding the grudge to. And you know what? There's nothing you can do about it anyway. So like that was an epiphany. And again, I mentioned I was such a hard-headed, thick-headed guy to learn this stuff. But when I learned that, I can let it own the rest of my life, and I could be one miserable guy for the rest of my life. And maybe I'll be a miserable drunk the rest of my life if I'm lucky, or maybe I'm just going to die young. Or I can figure out with the tools that these people are helping me with to come to some kind of acceptance with it and move on with my life and try to make my life better. Or I can come to the realization, like I said, like, the only one person here that's being affected and being hurt by this, and it's me. Whether it's fair or I think it's fair or not fair, that's not the question. It's what do you want to do with it? What do I want to do with myself? What do I want to do about it? What kind of life do I want to have?
Yeah, that was such a powerful moment in your story. I know I'm such a visual person. I was like picturing you at like Central Park with your dad. What park were you at?
No, that actually the amends was at his house. That was at his house.
Okay. I want to talk about all of the cool things that you're doing now. You have this podcast, which is huge. I mean, you have so many followers and you have such amazing guests on. And I want to talk about this new business venture. So tell us about this new business venture that you have.
Oh, that's sweet. I appreciate you bringing it up. Yes, the podcast I had mentioned, I started the podcast I'm almost going on episode 100. I say this all the time, and I'm sure I said it to you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, is on that business plan that I had said I wrote out, there was no part like, oh, by the way, you're going to meet incredible people and start incredible friendships and relationships with. And that's exactly what happened. Like I have this platform and I started it. There was a simple mantra at the end of the day was let this podcast help one person today. I want to help one person. I want to help one person every single day. And that's part of my morning prayers. And as it's grown a little bit, I've gotten a little more greedier in my prayers. So the prayers now, let's help as many people as we can. You know, not to put a number on it, but it's been incredible. I wouldn't be here with you tonight if I hadn't started my podcast. Wouldn't have met. I wouldn't be able to know all the cool stuff that you're doing. You know, I'm texting other people. It's just the community is online, which I didn't even know existed. Online sober community is absolutely incredible. And I was a raging alcoholic, but you know, that doesn't mean everyone has to label it that way. Everyone has their own journey and their own path. So I've gotten to meet these incredible people and with incredible stories. And from that, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I always want to know, like, I'm always kind of have my eye on like next chapter, but I want to have something that I can build on that I can enjoy. I love like athleisure. I love to hike. I love that kind of athletic clothing. I love yoga. I love everything kind of health and wellness. And so I put it out there, and I really believe God put this idea and placed this in my heart, and it's called Recover. It's RCVR, and it's for us. It's for people in sobriety. It's like the podcast very like right away was way bigger. And I mean right away. It was way bigger than Gary. Like it had nothing to do with it, actually. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like the podcast is way bigger than me. And this is what this brand is becoming for me as well. It's bigger, and I'm just getting started. It's like the very top of the first inning with it. But I have a lot of ideas, a lot to come, a lot to do. But it's been a lot of fun. It's amazing to see people, strangers wearing the gear, see friends wearing the gear. It's a lot of fun. It really is.
I've had the pleasure of wearing your gear. Wore the sports bra at a race like 2 weeks ago, and I won. So now it's my lucky sports bra.
Well,
I'm
there you
going to
go.
wear it to
Can't
every
miss the
race.
win.
It made me faster. I got a lot of questions about it. It's
Love it.
such good material, just like high quality and support too. So you're making like really good quality stuff. And then also to have a clothing line for people like us. Like I love that, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's more to come. Yoga is going to be a big part of it. There's going to be hiking aspect. There's meditation products coming because meditation is a big part of my life. There's a lot to come with it. You know, they call it the grind, like to try to build a business from ground up, and I'm there. It is, right? But this is a little different, Megan, right? Because like I enjoy this. Like I'm talking to people that have been through things that I've been through. So then like they want to talk to me or like I said, it's just intimate. It's real.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like, hey, what's the numbers? And there's more to it, you know. And I
Yeah.
think,
It's not transactional.
yeah, it's not.
It's way more than that.
It's not exactly, and I don't think it ever will be transactional. Again, you gotta follow what's in my heart and soul, right? And so, if the typical CEO type of company, like, why are you spending 30 minutes talking to this person? Like, well, look what we're talking about. You know, it's really
Yeah.
important, real stuff.
I love it. I absolutely love your story. It's just a beautiful story of overcoming and resilience. And, you literally created a whole new life for yourself. The people that benefit from that so much are your kids and your wife. I think I told you this when I was a guest on your show, but you changed generations by changing your life. And that is a legacy that I hope I can leave behind as well.
Oh, that's so sweet. My wife had brought that up to me years ago. She's like, you altered only your life, but generations after you.
We have made it to the lightning round of our show.
All
So I
right.
ask the same 5 questions to every guest.
Okay.
The first question is you're given 3 options. You have to shark dive, bungee jump, or skydive. Which one are you doing?
Oh, I want to skydive. I've always wanted to skydive. But there is a shark. Now, are we in a shark tank or there's no shark tank? Is it a shark tank like
Yeah,
South
shark,
Africa?
like, yes, yes.
All right. All right. Well, I'm doing that. That's what I'm doing.
Awesome. Number 2, you're in a simulation. Every time you walk into a room, the same song plays. What's your song?
First one, and it's Freebird, Leonard Skinner.
That's a really good one. I haven't heard that one yet. Great
Favorite.
song.
Yeah.
It makes me feel something when I hear that song.
Me too, and I've been blasting it. My friends make fun of me like, "Oh, Gary, that Freebird again." I'm like, "Yeah, Freebird, we got to hear it."
Number 3, what is your favorite Disney movie?
Favorite Disney movie? My first answer was going to be Star Wars, but technically that's now a Disney movie. And Moana 1.
Oh, yeah.
I
So good.
absolutely love that movie.
I'm with you on the one. I didn't love the second one, but I think it's just because the first one was so good, you know?
Yeah, same here.
Same. Number 4, what is something you're obsessed with?
Boy, what is something I'm obsessed with? I think I'm obsessed with focusing on having an incredible life. Like, I really want to live life, building the business and doing the podcast and finding a purpose and maybe making the world a little bit better. It's all because, I want to live while I'm here, and that doesn't like your quote at the beginning. It doesn't mean like a Lambo or something in the driveway. It means making memories. That's what I'm obsessed with, making memories with my family. That's what it is.
Love it. That was a good answer. And number 5, last question. What does freedom mean to you?
What's freedom mean to me? Freedom means waking up without an alarm clock, without anyone else's expectations even in my brain at all. I'm not fighting any kind of fears, any financial fears. I feel like I'm already free because I was bound by alcoholism for so long, and it was probably going to kill me. I'll bring this up too because it ties into freedom for me. I mentioned those buddies of mine. This again was like around 10 years sober, and I never really had like the talk with them. I was at a weak point of my sobriety. I was really I was in a bad spot. And I was like, I never really asked them, what do they think of me getting sober and everything? I'm curious. So lo and behold, there was a barbecue like next week, and I never asked you boys, what did you guys think when I went to rehab? And what did you think like when I went away? Because I feel like I missed out like in a whole year of my life with you guys. What did you think? And they all stopped and looked at each other like, Bud, we talked about this, man. We think you would have been dead. I'm like, really? Like, I couldn't believe that's what they said. They're like, yeah, we've talked about this a bunch of times. And I was a little fragile at this point. My mind was definitely not in the right spot. And, I went right back into my program right after that. So, where I am free, I'm already free. It's freedom of my own mind. It's freedom of bondage of self, as we say in one of the prayers. I feel like I'm already free, but sometimes I need to remind myself.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find your clothing line and your podcast?
Oh yeah, the clothing line is recoverbrand.com. So it's RCVRbrand.com. Please check it out. I'd love for you to come check it out. And the podcast, I really hang out on Instagram. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but Instagram is where you can DM me. It's the Begin Again Podcast on Instagram. The website is the Begin Again Podcast, and it's across all the platforms.
It's a great show. Absolutely great show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Megan, I really appreciate your time. It's been a blast being here with you.
All right, bye.